Coming right up, Straight Talk with Art Levine. Our guest tonight for the entire show, the 35th Governor of the State of California, the Honorable George Duekmejian, as we continue our 20th anniversary year.
Closed captioning provided by Scan Health Plan.
Opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Charter Communications nor its sponsors. We recognize our obligation to present opposing points of view by responsible spokespersons. For information, please contact the director of program.
She stands in the face of evil and will not lose hope or faith. America, the land of freedom, is still the home of the brave. So raise the banner, called Old Glory. Let us join our fellow man. History will write the story. America will always stand.
Straight Talk is brought to you in part by Southern California Edison. For over 100 years, life powered by Edison. The Press Telegram, your local news leader for over 100 years.
Join us for tonight's edition of Straight Talk. And now your host, Art Levine.
Good evening and welcome to Straight Talk. We're delighted you're joining us for the first show of the new year, 2012. I'm very honored to have as our guest for the entire show the former governor of the state of California, our friend George Duekmejian. Governor, welcome to Straight Talk.
Thank you, Art. Nice to be here.
As many of you may know, our guest was governor of the state from 1983 to 1991. He was a state assemblyman, a state senator, and then attorney general, leading to a very successful governorship. And you were even asked to consider running for vice president.
That's right.
And you declined.
Right.
It was just too nice in California, and you didn't need that or want that. But it's always nice to be wanted.
That's true.
Yeah. I remember when you were governor, because I was teaching back then, and the faculty were all upset that with funding and education, and yet you had a very generous record of funding higher education and education generally in 8 state budgets. It was the state's highest funding priority. And you look back at that and you think, now, why didn't they get it? I mean, today, God, would we be thankful for that kind of support?
Well, I'm glad we were in a position to do it, and we did recognize the vital importance that we have as well-educated and as well-trained individuals as possible for the advancement of the state, not only for the benefit of the individuals, but for the overall state, the state economy. And so we felt that it was very important to give as much support as we could to higher education.
And another high priority was planned investments in public facilities.
Yes, again, California was a state that was growing tremendously in the 1980s. There was more and more demands for services, and we also realized that if we're going to ensure the future of the state, you've got to have the basic infrastructure. It has to be available and in place and in as best condition as possible. That helps to encourage investment in the state. And so we tried to do the best we could. Again, we were fortunate that we were able to do that.
And now we fast forward 20 years from 1991 when you left office and when we started Straight Talk. And now it's 2011. And for years, the state government is dysfunctional. It's not working. Where did we go wrong?
Well, that's a big one. But there obviously, I think there has continued to be more of an interest in satisfying a variety of interest groups rather than really looking at the total overall benefit of the state. And so I think in recent years, the policymakers have tended to try to satisfy various groups and rather than just thinking about the overall total good for the state of California.
Well, how come when you were governor, they thought about the total good and now they don't? Is it a function of term limits and turnover? Is it a function of gerrymandered districts? Why did it change?
I think you just have to make sure that the policies are pronounced, that people know what direction you're going to go in, and that you stick to it. And in my case, being the governor, you did have a lot of ability to try to keep things on course. And very often I would receive legislation for a variety of expenditures that I felt were not beneficial for the whole state. And so over the period of 8 years, I used my veto authority 4,000 times. That's based on legislation and also the line item veto that a governor has as it relates to the budget. And I saved about $7 billion by doing that. And it doesn't get a lot of very positive coverage when you veto something, but it's very important. To me, it's like when you have a motor vehicle, when you have a car, you've got to have a brake as well as an accelerator. And unfortunately, a lot of members of the legislature wanting to be very supportive of different interest groups were always applying the accelerator, but nobody ever wanted to apply the brake, and so we did that.
When you were governor, it was pre-term limits, and so people could stick around for a while, get to know one another, build relations. And Willie Brown was speaker, was he not, for part of your tenure?
For most all of it, yes.
So you could sit down with the speaker and reach a deal, and he could deliver.
That's right. That's right.
That makes a big difference, too.
That's very true. And Speaker Willie Brown was very pragmatic.
And he was a Democrat, of course.
He was a Democrat. And when he would make public speeches, he would say that I was like that part of the horse that went over the fence last. But when you sat down at the table and you discussed the issues, he was very, very pragmatic. And he knew whether or not he could get the votes for a certain position or whether he couldn't. And we were able to work together quite well.
It seems to some of us, many of us, that term limits really haven't worked because people are always looking for the next job, and you don't build those enduring relationships that allow you to develop a level of trust and get stuff done. And the state legislature now is dysfunctional with liberal Democrats and conservative Republicans, where the real race is in the primary, and 2/3 are required to get anything done. It's not happening.
Well, there was a reason why the term limits was enacted, and it was basically because there were some members of the legislature that were there far, far too long. But the term limits that was enacted is too short. And in my opinion, it should be at least 12 years where you could serve. And the way it is now, as you just indicated, they just are always looking for the next step and immediately. And that's another reason why they're trying to satisfy various interest groups.
And maybe the 12 years could be all in just one house, so you don't have to switch.
Right, right. That would be better.
Okay, in the next segment, we'll get the governor's view of what's happening on the national scene. You won't want to miss that.
supported by Edison International. Californians are getting to be old hands at year-round energy conservation, part of our special awareness of the resources we all depend on. We're making the change to energy-efficient light bulbs, keeping warm weather thermostats set to a comfortable 78 degrees, and giving major appliances the afternoon off. Because when it comes to energy conservation, it all adds up. Life, powered by Edison.
This is Doug Albrecht sharing with you just one of the 100 centennial moments we chose to mark this special occasion. The Port of Long Beach was born when Charles Wyndham purchased 800 acres of mudflats in the San Pedro Bay, where the LA River meets the sea. Today, the port covers 3,200 acres of land and spans 35 miles of waterfront.
I want to improve my career opportunities.
I want to earn a higher salary at my job.
I'd like to finish what I started.
The new Bachelor of Arts in Liberal Arts degree completion program at Cal State Long Beach will help you achieve your educational goals while keeping your life in balance. Contact our customer service center at 1-800-963-2250 for more information, or visit us on the web. Let CSULB help you finish what you started.
As your business searches for smart ways to save, don't forget about the one that's right in front of you. Switch to the Charter Business Bundle and you can save big without sacrificing a thing. Get reliable business telephone and high-speed internet with local support and great features. Power your business with great savings starting today. It's easy to pay less and get more. Call now and make a switch to the Charter Business Bundle.